For anyone struggling with ear ringing, do not drink water.
Hey folks, hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. It's time for the Wednesday show. We're going to continue working on the map and play some games and just chat and have some fun. Hope you guys are having a good one. Sorry about the ad in the middle of that. I'm playing my own music here off of YouTube, which is probably a mistake, but it's the easiest way for me to like pull up like random, 25-minute long pieces that I've done for some background music, and just to get you guys... I'm going to promote it some more. The music only channel. There will be more music coming this spring and summer here. Technically in summer yet, I think. So we'll have some more stuff. Working up towards improvisation number 100, which is going to be... I have some big plans for that if I could pull them off. I have some concepts in my mind, but you got to take a little time away from doing that kind of stuff to be creative sometimes. And fulfilling the Kickstarter has been a big occupation of my time. All the books are ordered, so we're just waiting for that to go through. A lot of you will have the books earlier than others because of the way shipping works to Canada or whatever. I think even though I should have been able to set everything up right, I think I'm going to end up somehow still losing money shipping to Canada because of all the, tariffs and things like that, right? It's expensive to ship into Canada. It always has been. But it can sometimes be fairly cheap, and other times it gets really expensive, right? So for me to ship a book in the continental US is like $4 to $5. For me to ship it into Canada is like $25. I know that there's some people from like Greece and stuff. For me to ship into Greece from the United States is over $100 because of all the, there's the shipping expenses, plus there's customs, there's all these kinds of duties and stuff that happen. So it becomes really expensive. If I wasn't doing signed copies, it would be slightly less expensive because in some cases I can print the book in the European Union, and so that avoids a lot of those taxes, which is kind of what Trump was talking about with tariffs anyway, which is like, well, people will make the thing in the US to avoid the tariffs, and that will produce, more work in the local economy, especially the lower bracket work, right? The lower rungs of the ladder where people need more entry-level and mid-level work. Factories and shipping locations provide a lot of that. So anyway, that's why I limited shipping to the US and Canada, and probably for the next one, I will drop Canada. I'll probably have nothing going out of the United States because or the shipping charge will be so expensive, no one from Canada is going to buy it anyway. It'll just be prohibitively expensive for anybody to want to get something out of Canada, if that makes sense. This is just how it is. Like, it's not, I don't make the rules. There's people who, if they're fulfilling really large quantities of things, they find ways to get around that. There's companies that specialize in that. But when it comes to like, mailing 2 or 3 books to people, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the expense. And if I meaningfully charged the correct amount of money, it would be, no one would in their right mind would buy it. I remember somebody wanted me to ship a book to New Zealand, and I figured out it was going to cost like $80 or something to ship it to New Zealand. I was like, okay, I don't think I can do that because it's just a lot of stuff, right? A lot of stuff that ends up adding up. But you learn from these. And so the people that get stuff from Canada, I won't be making money on it, but it's okay. They'll have a cool product. So that's cool. That's cool for them. All right, let's do a little bit of drawing, and then we will play some games. I had been playing Clair Obscur, the Expedition 33, and that's an okay game. If you want my full reaction to it, I don't think Canada will become an American territory within 4 years or probably 40 years. I just don't see that happening, right? They would have to want to join, and I just don't see that happening outside of a giant collapse. And then if they're collapsed, why would we want them anyway, right? What's the strategic value of Canada, especially if we can get Greenland, right? I don't know. I just don't see it happening. I think people are being very wistful with their thinking in this regard. All right, let me show you the map. Main monitor, so that can help a bit, unless everything freezes. There we go. If I wake that stuff up. I wonder if I could can I pop this out? Oh, I can. Perfect. Oh, dude, this is it. And then I have my menus are all off. It's everything on this screen. Perfect. Let me put my stuff up here. I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on that'll make Canada join us. They also are still vote heavily leftist. Do you want that? Do you want leftist land to join the United States? I don't really think so. In a collapse, we'd want to control the territories of Canada because it's our largest land border. See, I would think the same thing actually about Mexico. I could foresee another war with Mexico over the drug cartel stuff. And that is because the cartels are such a security risk, and they have such a big disparate impact on our populace. And they're in control of Mexico in many ways, that I could see the way that you would actually fight the drug war. I mean, Scott Adams suggested this, and it's really interesting to think about, which is we're not really fighting the war on drugs like a war. We are fighting the war on drugs as just higher funded police activity.
Allows us to do what we need to do in our life. It's phenomenal.
Well, we've also seen a lot of Americans being like, well, we want to join Canada. We want California to join Canada. I'm like, the Civil War should let you know that you are an imperial province. You don't get to join Canada. We fought a very bloody war over whether any state had the right to leave, and the result of that war was they do not. Sorry, I'm redoing this 20 times because it just still didn't look right. Let's center this a little differently here. I mean, if the Civil War decided anything besides the slavery issue, it decided are we many states or are we one empire? And the answer is we are an empire. We are an empire, and our imperial capital is Washington, D.C. We are not 50 United States. We are an empire with 50 territories with 50 provinces. They have fairly autonomous governance, which, if you look at the Roman Empire, that's the way it worked there. But everybody had to pay their taxes to Rome still. No one could decide to leave if they wanted to. Membership in the empire was not an option. It was a requirement, or the legions would come in to stomp you into the ground. And the Civil War was so bloody, I don't believe anybody else would try that. Just without any kind of major reason to, I guess. You're from Canada, and I would vote to join, but yeah, super lefty. Alberta's trying to get a referendum to break away from Canada. They might then join the U.S., but they do appreciate their independence. Yeah. Alberta, I mean, Quebec is, I mean, the Quebecois thing has been generations at this point of like, we don't consider ourselves really fully Canadian. We are our own people. And should the Quebecois have their own nation? Under most of the justifications we use for determining what is and isn't a nation, I mean, the Quebecois would probably fit. But they had a big vote on it years ago, and it didn't pass, deciding if Quebec could be its own country. I remember it because like we always called it Quebec. We called it Quebec in school. And so then we learned, oh, it's Quebec. It's not, it's a Latin word. It's not Quebec. Quebec sounds funny even when I say it. Are you guys from Quebec? I used to play World of Warcraft with some friends from Quebec. Some Quebecois. And they had a lot of problems with the way things were, especially with their health system. It's like, dude, you go down to the emergency room and like 50% of the people there aren't sick. It's like, I don't know why they're there. They're there because they're lonely, but there's zero consequence for them coming in when they aren't sick. So they just come in, or they're there to try to like get the nurses to give them pills. You know, they want a little bit of that there, cell tech. You guys know what I mean? But they were great people to play with. You know, I enjoyed them. They were great people. All my Canadian friends have been great to me. I gathered Quebec was one of the more liberal provinces. Jesse White, who did the cover of King Leopard, he lives in British Columbia. I think northern British Columbia. And I'll show it to you. This is the map for like the entire universe, but let me show you King Leopard. Come on, where is this thing? All right. So yeah, Jesse White did that. He lives in British Columbia, out in the woods, and he's a great guy. He's been fantastic to work with. He's done a ton of comic art. He's done stuff for Jonathan Pajot and John De La Rose, and done covers for metal bands, and he's a metal singer too. He's a great guy. What was I gonna say? I love British Columbia. It's beautiful. It's like, I would love to have British Columbia minus Vancouver. Can we do that? Vancouver can be its own little city-state, and then like we'll take British Columbia and make it like a big national park. Quebec basically is its own nation, has its own immigration laws around French language, if I recall. I know, like, you have to have a lot of things in French there. And the thing is, I knew a couple of these guys, and they barely spoke English, even though they were adults. They're like, I'm learning English by talking to you. It's like, oh, cool. Well, that's fun. It's like, I have friends there that had never spoken English as adults. They grew up entirely speaking French. And it was possible to do that. Like, French was the daily language. And the lingua franca of English is just... I don't even know if they have to teach it in schools or not. I gathered that they took English in schools. But it was, they took it as a foreign language. They'd have, like, maybe, 2 semesters of English in a 4-year high school. Actually, a lot of Canadian high schools I remember were 5 years. They had an extra year when you were 18, which they have kind of done away with, I hear. But I don't know. Just doing the little coastline here. Just fun. The details are starting to come in. I still got to do a lot of the features, like some of the forests and the swamps and stuff. Now, this is a curious case. What do I want to do here? Do I want to go on? Here, let's do this one first. Yeah. So Quebec, I gather, is fairly liberal. And fairly leftist-leaning place. Nothing against the people there, I think people who think that, like, Canada is going to become a province of the United States I think we're being a little too aspirational there. I think that's a little bit more than we could or should expect from any of our actions here. But it does reflect a certain thought about manifest destiny, which is like, it's our destiny to be large and powerful and control large amounts of continuous land. And, yeah. That would include controlling all of North America. My thoughts about Mexico are really that, the war on drugs has not been effective. It's been effective, actually, in a number of ways, but it hasn't been effective because we haven't really waged it as a war. We call it the war on drugs, and all we do is just do police action. You just make a point of, we're going to make sure that we punish criminals a lot for doing drugs or selling drugs. And that's our war on drugs. We're going to have lots of, we're going to have like DARE, drug abuse resistance education programs to try to persuade young people not to use drugs, street drugs. Let's do that one again. But now it's gotten bad enough where it's like, I think you could make a point to have military action against, Mexican drug cartels. The average Canadian looks down on U.S. because of healthcare. Until they really need healthcare, then they come here. Because you can actually get healthcare here. I remember Stefan Molyneux talking about this, was like years ago, right? It's like, he had lymphoma, and so he had a tumor, and they could be surgically removed, but they wouldn't do it in Canada. They wanted to wait 18 months or something to do it. He was on the list, like, you're on the list. Maybe you'll get surgery in 18 months. So he flew to the U.S., and there was a listener who happened to be a doctor, like one of his fans happened to be a doctor. And so like they worked out some way for him to do the surgery here in the United States because he couldn't get it done in Canada. And yeah, many such cases. Oh, you can't see the map. I realized you can't see the map. Here we go. Yeah. So yeah, many such cases of people like that. Now that's not to say our healthcare system is great. It's very expensive for what you get, right? Because we do have, you know, people like this idea like universal. What the hell does that mean? We actually do have universal healthcare. It's just not. It doesn't look like the European model where like everybody's in, you know, the government system. We have a huge number of people. We have a government healthcare system called Medicare. That's but all the hospitals and everything are private. So you basically have the problem of privatized profits and public risk. So if you're paying you're paying the insurance premiums, the public is, and privatize all the profits. And that drives up the cost tremendously. I know, you know, when you put all of our insurance together, I think my family spends around 1/3 of its entire income on insurance. Not just health insurance, but, you know, car insurance, homeowners insurance. But health insurance is the biggest one, right? All of this insurance we're required to carry. And that doesn't build wealth. It just takes your income and evaporates it. And you rarely get the value of it, you know? And the thing is like, if anyone should be getting the value out of healthcare, it'd be me and my family, like, because we have healthcare issues and we still don't. You know, the people, you know, I have an extended family member that he probably costs as much to the healthcare system as 20 people because of his own choices. That's the hard part, right? It's not like, well, he was born a paraplegic and, you know, we have to care for people who are paraplegics, who are handicapped or crippled because of things they didn't do. But it's like, no. He just does things with his life that cause him to get really sick a lot. Dope sick or get, you know. And so, yeah, we have to pay for that. Everyone has to pay for it because we've socialized the insurance costs. So, yeah, like the Stone Cost comic where it's like, you have a broken leg. It's like, that'll be 6 months. Can you wait 6 months for us to get a cast on it? That's Europe. And then like in the United States, like that'll be $300,000. And in Canada, it's like, kill yourself. You just get made. Yeah. Lately, I've also been working on the visual aspects of my fantasy story. In truth, it's the only part I enjoy. Characters, visuals, lore, world building. Yeah. Well, we have a very visual society. Someone was posting about this on Twitter a minute ago. Prose is not aesthetic, right? It's beautiful, but it's really hard to share prose. But it's really easy to share a picture of your character to generate interest, and I probably need to do more of it. But I just hate using AI for stuff, and the budget, man. Like the budget to hire artists to like do fan art of your crap or to do art of your crap is like, you'd have to be really independently wealthy to be able to afford to commission all that art. It's really expensive. It's why nobody does painted art book covers anymore. It's just too expensive. It's not that they don't like the art. It's not that the art, in some cases, it's that the art actually won't sell, but mostly it's that it's just too expensive. It's really expensive to do all that art, to pay for it. And the expense really adds up. Come on, get out of here. I don't need a tutorial for the brush tool to pop up Photoshop. Thank you. You hovered over it for a second. That must mean you want this tutorial pop up, right? How about no? How about none of that? I feel like this is a little too tight. I can always erase part of it, you know. This part's not quite tight enough. Pull it in a little tighter. Second line is supposed to be a little looser than the first line.
Figaro loves chicken.
For the way that I do the water here. Man, like the number of ads on YouTube has gone up exponentially, I feel like. I used to be alright with the idea of assisted death, but Canada showed the slippery slope was real, and they're now considering allowing depressed kids now. It seems doomed to go too far. Well, you know. Hey, what's up, Adrian? Hope you're doing great. I've been seeing that you've been publishing your story. So, grats and good job. I haven't read it yet, though. Sorry. New covers for books come out every 2 to 5 years anyway. That's to like keep up with market trends, I think, changing covers, but painted covers especially are really expensive, and can be, at least. So you really have to justify the expense. And it's hard to justify the expense when like a typical book sells, you know, 12 copies. Not for me, but like your average book. You know, authors always like to pretend to be more successful than they are. I'm like, do you have any idea how hard it is to sell 100 books? It's actually really hard. It is not an easy task to sell 100 copies of a book. I know, because I've sold thousands of copies of books. And it's all where I think a lot of new authors have all of their anchoring biases, like they're misanchored. They're like, oh, well, you know, Jurassic Park sold 2 million copies, so I should be able to sell 2,000. It's like, you have no idea how hard it is to sell 2,000 copies of anything, especially a book, when people are not interested in books as they used to be, and there's a billion books out there, you know? It's really hard to sell 100 copies of a book. So whenever you're budgeting like what you're going to do for your book, you need to budget it with really much lower goals than you think in mind. So I know I've seen so many authors, they'll pay $1,000, $1,500 for like a really high quality painted book cover, like really high quality art. And they look at it as like, oh, well, you know, I just have to sell 1,500 copies of the book, and then like, boom, it'll be paid for, right? It's like, it's really hard to sell that. You're probably never going to sell 1,500 copies of your book unless you have a lot of other skills in marketing. You're willing to spend a crap ton of money on marketing, or you have like some other kind of platform that you can sell things on, like a big YouTube channel, right? Then it's not a big deal. But then they get burned out. They're like, what happened? I like lost my money doing this hobby that I thought I would make money on. And it's like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to make money. It's hard to sell books. It's very difficult. So you have to think like, instead of saying, well, I'm going to sell 1,500 books, be like, well, what's a reasonable target? Is 100 copies. That's hard, especially if you don't have a platform and you don't have any readers yet. Say like, I'm going to sell 100 copies of my book. But then you have your budget in mind for how you're going to do that, right? So if you're going to sell 100 copies of a book, the ebook's $2.99, which is where most of your sales. Let's say you're gonna make royalties $2 a book. Okay, 100 books, that gives you a budget of $200. That's really low, right? So you can get a pre-made book cover for like $50 for your genre, and that's probably like the best thing that you could do. It's really easy to make back $50 compared to $1,500. So set your things low, then see how quickly you can get into the black. And so maybe your budget's $200 and you're going to spend $50 on the cover and $100 on advertising, or $150 on advertising. So your investment is $200, and you're going to see if you can make back that $200 by selling 100 copies. Like, that should be your first goal, and see if you can do it, right? People were like shocked that like the first year that I sold books, I only made like $100 on all my books. And they're like, what? You should be making this? That's unacceptable. You need to be making so much more than that. It's like, dude, I'm just being honest.
Now we're bringing our 10 gig fiber to the home network.
Another ad.
Guaranteeing our performance. Plus,
I don't make any money on these ads, by the way. It's not a monetized channel.
So
that's always fun to think about.
And stress less over your internet.
Hey, who's making money on this? YouTube's making a little money, I guess.
Hundreds of thousands of guys are finding doctor-trusted treatment for their ED. In fact, we'll
Oh, here's a boner pill ad.
today he really feels like him.
I'm him.
But he didn't always.
You guys need some boner pills?
So we
We got some free and discreet boner pill shipping. Oh, yeah, thanks, Adrian. I appreciate it. Congratulations. I imagine you're rather busy, so more than understand why you haven't read it yet. I'll do it as when I can. Did you ever publish the book you wrote on stream yet, or still holding it? So one of them, yes. So the first book I wrote on stream is out. Sorcerer's Blood. The other one is not. So the reason is I put it in the proverbial drawer. No, metaphorical drawer. I mean, maybe it's also proverbial, because I tell people to put it in the drawer. So I put it in the drawer. When I come back, I have a list of things to edit. I'll edit it live on the stream, and we'll publish it that way. I may do another crowdfund for it, for like another special edition of that book, because I think it's a really cool book. But for me to get a good cover, I'm going to have to keep some money really set aside, because it's a very fantastical book, and it really needs a spectacular cover. And looking at it, it's like I kind of want to crowdfund it to pay for the cover, because otherwise I don't know if I could justify $1,000 super high quality painting, which is what it needs to like reflect the story that's in it. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah. So I haven't published it yet, but we will. We'll get to it. Right now, I've just been focusing on the King Leper stuff and doing this map, which I'm doing here. A lot of fun. And I'm always thinking of like, what's the next thing in the future? I realized I drew an island here that looks like a little boot. It's very cute. And I'm always thinking like, well, what's the next thing? I think it's probably time to do a visual novel. I have books that are on the queue to get published, including Prince of Dusk, which I wrote on stream. That's in the queue to get published. But I have like 3 more Moonsong books that are on deck. Yeah, I put it in the folder. Yeah, this is digital. I put it in the folder, put it away. The reason it's good to step away from a manuscript for a while is that when you come back to it, you will have forgotten what you did and what you meant. So all the little autocorrections your brain does of like skipping over spelling errors, skipping over maybe bad grammar because you know what you meant, all of those things come up where you can read a sentence and go, what the hell was I saying here? Right? Or this isn't very clear. I'm going to rewrite it. And it just gives you a much better view of what you're doing as an editor when you're kind of self-editing and doing revisions and things like that. Gives you just a lot better perspective when you come back to it as a more as a reader and less as the author to make that product a little bit better. You know, as artists, we're very attached to our own work, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Feanor loved best the things which he has made with his own hands. But, all that being said, when you are trying to revise something and make a better product, you have to think about what the reader is going to think about it, not what you think or feel about it as the artist. You have to think, is this going to communicate what I want to the reader? Now, to me, this is different than saying like, well, I'm just going to make a product for other people. You know, I'm not going to, you know, I'm not completely commercial when I make my art. Even though it's technically in the realm of commercial art, I'm not completely commercial when I make my art. And the reason for that is that I have things to say, which I think are important. And that takes precedence over any commercial thoughts. But I do want to think, okay, well, am I actually communicating the themes? Am I communicating the story correct to the reader? Is the reader going to understand what I'm doing, or am I being too obscure? All of those are thoughts that go through my head when I'm doing a serious revision of a work. Really important things to consider is how that comes off to a reader, because this is an act, you know, this is an act of communication. So if you're not communicating to another person and you're not interested in communicating to another person, then what are you doing? what are you doing, right? So I do want to keep it like what readers are going to think in mind. Where do you initially publish your books? Amazon, I assume. Do you get physical copy at the same time, or you do that later or first? So usually I will publish on Amazon. Sometimes I go wide and it's all over the place. You know, Barnes & Noble, you do the whole bit. Which you can use Draft to Digital to go everywhere besides Amazon. And you can use Amazon to do Amazon. Amazon has their own thing. And yes, I almost always do physical at the exact same time. A large portion of my work is sold as a physical copy. It's larger than most indie authors I know, but for whatever reason, my audience, which is you guys, like physical products. They like to hold something in the hand, something real that like the powers that be can't delete off of your Nook or whatever, you know. So yeah, I usually do them both at the same time. For King Leopard, these are technically, you know, I'll have the digital products out for everybody this week. And they've been done forever, but like, you know, I didn't want them to come out too far in advance of the physical copies because I just think that just kind of wouldn't go over well, I guess. Yeah, this little tight area here. What am I going to do here? For Amazon, you could put them out at the same time. You can't really do pre-orders for physical items very easily. You can through other printers. The thing is that Amazon's print-on-demand service is really good. And one of the problems why I think the signed copies are going to be technically late for most backers, and that's unfortunate, and hopefully they'll forgive me, is basically because going through Ingram Spark, oops, put a little mark there, which does a portion of Amazon's print-on-demand service, is so slow. I am operating on the Amazon timeline, which is when I want a copy of my physical book, even to proof it, it's like 2 days. Whereas it was 14 days to get a proof copy through Ingram Spark. Even paying for like all of the faster shipping, the faster processing. which was extra money. It wasn't any faster, but it still took them 10 days to ship it. They said it would be 2, it took them 10. So I didn't pay for that this go around. I'm like, why would I pay extra when it takes the same amount of time? To hell with you guys. So that's going to be a problem with Ingram Spark. People are like, well, why don't you use a different printer? Well, the other printers are just much more expensive, which means considering I've already done the Kickstarter, I would just lose all my money if I went to another printer. I just would not make any profit at all. I would maybe break even, if not lose money, going to Lulu. I could do it with Lulu in mind, but you have to do that from the beginning. And then people are looking at like, it's $50 for a book. Yeah, it's $50. To get it, ship it, it's $50. I've been jotting down ideas for some short stories. Original ideas are hard. Everything feels so derivative. Never mind writing it all. I find that the easy part is really the idea. And the harder part, for me at least, is the execution. And that's because I feel like writing it takes more effort than merely coming up with a cool idea. I did a little... talked about this a little bit some years ago. Is like, I had friends that would call me up and be like, I have an idea for a script. We'll split it 50-50. I'd be like, that's great. You should just write the script. They're like, no, you're like the writer, but it's my idea. It's a great idea. So, you'll write the script and then we'll split the profits 50-50. I'm like, no. Basically asking me to be a ghostwriter. I should have just given them like a really enormous, I'd be like, we'll put your name on it. I'll be the ghostwriter. And I'll charge you $3,000. They'd be like, no, that's dumb. I won't do that. I'd be like, okay. That's fine. You do not have to do this crazy publishing thing. I wouldn't recommend it to most people. It's a very hard business. Art's the toughest industry because it's not an essential service. It's only truly essential in an ineffable spiritual sense. Yeah. How do you convince someone they need that? Yeah. Well, you just have to convince that it's something that they'll enjoy. Right? That it's an enjoyable thing. The same reason people buy, they buy movie tickets and stuff because they feel like they'll enjoy it. So that's generally the best you can do. I mean, you can try to market through, like you said, that ineffable sort of spiritual thing. Like, this will be a great spiritual work. And see how that goes. But most people aren't gonna buy your book because it's a great spiritual work. They're going to buy your book because it looks like it has a story inside of it that they want to read. Yeah. That's the problem with marketing, though. It's a big problem, right? Is that we're always making connections to things people have already read, which makes being original really hard to make money at. It's actually not that hard to just be original and have crazy original ideas. Maybe it's actually hard, but the harder part is like, well, how do you get people to read and enjoy this original thing? And I've run into that. I've run into that tremendously with marketing, because how do I market a book that is not like what's popular? I have to sell it as like classic fantasy, but it's different from classic fantasy too. Anything that has its own identity, that has its own sense of self, that's original in any way, it's so much harder to market it than just slop. Slop is really easy to market. Where do you recommend first-time authors go? So Amazon is where you should publish your books. If you don't have any following and you have a book, you need to be looking at publishing it on Amazon before you, in my opinion, before you start doing Kickstarter or stuff like that. Unless you already have a following on social media that you can monetize with a Kickstarter. You just need to get your name out there and start building a list. And so what I would actually recommend for like new authors that are looking to build an audience, this is not a super effective way now to do this, but it is a method, which is you publish your book for free on Draft to Digital and then publish it on Amazon, and then email Amazon and tell them to price match your book, which is free on other platforms. And they'll make it permanently free. And so people will download the free book. And in the free book, you have links for people to sign up to your mailing list. That's a very old strategy. It's not super effective anymore. Fact is, people are not really interested in books on Amazon simply because they're free. I think there's better platforms to publish free fiction on. Adrian, Gen Z, Val in here, he could probably tell you more about that because he's more like in touch with that. Wattpad or something like that. That's probably going to be a better way to build an audience now versus this older thing. But you can do that. But it'll be good for you to know the workflow of Amazon and the practices of Amazon, how you put a book up, how you write a blurb, how you make a cover, what keywords you want to pick, how to put your books in the categories that you want them to be in, and how to do AdWords. You can just do that experimentally, and you don't have to spend a ton of money to like learn this stuff. You can just kind of do it experimentally, like what I did for years. And just look up YouTube videos. A lot of authors like to share what they know, like me. Other authors are trying to sell you on a course, and I tell you to approach such things with extreme caution, because anybody who's selling you a course is really selling, you know, especially if they're trying to sell you a course on how to make money, they make their money from the course. They don't make their money doing the thing that you want to do. They make their money from the course. So just keep that in mind when you are considering buying a course from an author. They don't make their money selling books, or they would just sell books and be sipping margaritas on the beach rather than selling you AdWords courses. So just be cautious with that. I'm not saying never. Just use your wisdom. Use your best wisdom to determine those things for yourself. Royal Road, thank you, Hardwick. Yes, that's another one that's very popular. I need to like put stuff on these just to like have it there. But again, my books don't fit the modern paradigm and the kind of stuff that's on those sites at all. My books are just a different breed of book. They're more old school, I guess. Like, I tried for a long time to like market my books to modern readers, like in the modern paradigm, and like it's just really hard because, you know, a person who really likes Brandon Sanderson is probably not going to like Water of Awakening, even though Water of Awakening is a really cool book. It's mythic, and Brandon Sanderson's stuff is really not mythic. It's not operating on the mythic level at all. Even though he has like, you know, he has like all these people like these magic systems and stuff, which is great. If that's like what excites you about a setting, that's great, and I'm happy that you have that. But people will read Sanderson and they get into Sanderson, and then they come over to my classic fantasy stuff, and then they're like, it's not like Brandon Sanderson, you must suck. No, it's not like Brandon Sanderson. You know, it's like Poul Anderson. It's like Lord Dunsany. It's like Tolkien. It's more like Robert E. Howard. No, it's older style. I'm going for something better. Mervyn Peake. I would love to write like Mervyn Peake. Most people cannot tolerate reading Mervyn Peake. It won't make sense to them. You know. Have you run into the issue with cheap Amazon knockoffs of your books showing up on Amazon? I have not. That I know of, but I don't pay that much attention. And because I do all of my marketing kind of like with this, it just hasn't, maybe there is somebody doing knockoffs of my book, but I also don't think my books are popular enough for people to do knockoffs. You know, nobody's publishing weird stuff under my name. So yeah, I just don't think my books are popular enough for anybody to try to leech off me either. You know? Ryan Coogler found his way to sell his movies as important to black culture. So a lot of black people feel like they need to support his movies. He did that with Black Panther and Sinners. There you go. Yeah, Royal Road's very popular now for publishing stories for free. John C. Wright is even publishing some of his books there now. Yeah, I have a big back catalog. I could put some stuff on Royal Road. Why not? Just learn that side of it. I've been ignoring it. I guess I could just do it and kind of see what happens. I don't think you can market art in regards to the spiritual aspects. I just think that's the truth in the matter of why people truly enjoy it. Yeah. Do you think AI will cripple the selling book services business, like editing, since AI might find issues better than a human? Putting aside AI art, do you think a lot of the services will be replaced? So, great question. That's an amazing question, actually. Because I would say that I do not believe... It depends what people mean by editing. I realize that people mean several things when they say editing. And so we have to think about which ones people mean when they say editing. So some people, when they say editing, they will mean correcting spelling and grammar, which is proofreading to me. Other people, when they say editing, they're thinking correcting prose style, which is part of it. But if you were to hire someone like Brian Niemeyer to edit your book, that is a different thing. I don't see AI doing what he does, which is his ability to look at the story as a whole, tell you what needs to go, tell you what needs to be changed, tell you how you need to change your characters in order to make them more appealing, tell you what you like, a structural edit of your work. I don't see AI being able to do that because they can't value the art. So this is a part of any artistic endeavor. I talked about this in the creative streams. Valuation of art is fundamentally human because it's spiritual, like what Obscure References says. It's spiritual. Robots can't do it. They can't know why a story is beautiful. They can't do it. They can compare things to other things. They could be great difference engines. So a robot can give you a suggestion on the way that you wrote a sentence. That could be a good suggestion or a bad suggestion. One of the funny things that I might try just to show off is to put like Mervyn Peake, put like Titus Groan into like an AI editor, or put it into Grammarly or something, and see how it rips apart one of the best prose writers of the 20th century in terms of like fantasy prose writers. And you take that, and what information are you going to do with that? Does that mean it's worthless? I don't think it means it's worthless. I think you have to do your own valuation and your own consideration about any feedback you get from a robotic tool, whether it's a spell checker or a grammar checker or a style checker or anything else like that. Okay? I do not see AI replacing editors, but I see AI being able to replace many other things that I think would be really welcome. The real world tests have been done, and when it comes to dev and line editing, AI is useless. I agree with what Brian says, right? It's great that Brian's here because this is and I see I've done proofreading with Grammarly Live, and people are like, why are you ignoring everything Grammarly's saying? I'm like, because 90% of its suggestions are shit. But occasionally it will point out that I used a word twice in a row. Like I said, and. And my brain didn't see it. My brain doesn't see it when I'm doing the proofreading. And so Grammarly will catch that. Grammarly will catch that I forgot a comma. Grammarly will catch that I forgot a close quote on something. Grammarly will catch a lot of these little typographical and like little grammar errors that you don't see or think about, or using the wrong form of a word, forgetting an apostrophe and it's. Grammarly catches all that stuff. Its style suggestions are garbage. You should turn those off and ignore them. So when I was doing them, the response live was like, I can't believe, it's like, you're just not, I'm like, I'm making the robot work for me. The robot is helping me to find things that I don't normally filter. There are things that I may possibly filter out when I'm reading an old manuscript. And that's useful. But as far as like providing real editing, I don't think the robot is up to the task, because it can't evaluate the art. It can't give you feedback on, like, this character's really flat and you need better descriptions of him. The most advanced AI can like compare it and say, you're doing less descriptions than typical authors. You're doing less descriptions than Stephen King, but it can't really tell you that it, right? It can't value it. It can't say, well, this is beautiful prose. It can't do it. ChatGPT's gotten better at proofreading than Grammarly. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, because I'm always looking for, like, how could this be used? Now, here's some things that AI could be used for meaningfully. AI could read a book and tell you what keywords you need to use for your ads. AI could generate ads for you. Can you imagine what a load off your mind that would be to not have to think about advertising, to just be like, that AI is going to find the optimal way to advertise your book when you on AdWords or Google Words or whatever the hell the Google one is now. That would be a huge labor savings and a huge mental labor savings to just pay a robot to do that, because it's a waste of human labor. It's a waste of human capital to spend time thinking about how many thousands of keywords you need to put in your AdWords ads that you duplicate 7,000 times. If you could just let an AI run that part of the business, man, that would be such a labor savings. But even when you do that, there's someone will complain that, like, well, my business was marketing authors and now I don't have a job. It's like, no author wanted to pay you. No author wanted to pay you to market this book. They did it because they had to, Anyway. So, yeah. I think AI I don't believe will improve real editing. It may help you do proofreading. And so that will be useful. Better proofreading is good. Typos take the reader out of the book. I've gotten that feedback many times from shipping books with typos in them. Okay. So, like, yes, minimizing typos is very good. I don't think it can replace editors at that quality. And in fact, I think authors who are maybe new, they haven't developed that sense of valuing prose properly, are going to get taken in by like AI tools and think that they need to write the way that the AI says that they need to write, which is going to produce some absolutely awful work. So I could see the overall quality of even stuff that's not AI generated going down because people are relying too heavily on the tools to tell them what to think about their writing. They just, gosh, you have to you have to embrace the developmental phase of writing. You have to love it. You have to love sucking and you have to love getting better. You just have to embrace that and don't look for shortcuts, because the shortcuts are ultimately gonna cut out from underneath you any ability to do something good. And I see it with art too, right? Like Shadiversity, not a person I hate, but his view on AI art is, it's one of these, it's like a Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Is that he's unable to properly value or valuate, rather than I guess I would say evaluate. He's unable to properly assign value to art. So when he produces AI art, he says, well, this is better than regular art. And to everybody who's trained in art, they're like, it looks like shit. It looks bad. It doesn't look like good art. And he thinks that they're just being facetious because they don't want to lose their job. Maybe they don't want to lose their job, but the AI art stuff that he publicly puts out is not good. And in fact, he'd get better results generally by just having a more open prompt and letting the AI make an image that's more like other images. It just would come out better rather than him trying to exert an underdeveloped artistic skill onto it. So a highly developed artist can tell whether the AI is spitting out crappy images or good ones. But the problem is that the AI shortcuts that entire development so that the artist can't tell whether what the AI is producing is good or bad. And that is something that I'm afraid of, is that people will lose their ability to tell what's good or bad. And I think a lot of young people are losing their ability to detect AI. Whereas to us old fogies and people who've been writing forever and reading forever, it immediately hops off the page. Like, that is definitely AI. It's that a robot wrote that. And the qualities are sometimes difficult to define. Like, how do you know it's a robot? It's like, well, it's written like a robot, dude. It doesn't. People don't write like this. It has no personality. The personality that's in there is really fake and stupid. You know. Anyway, that's my rant. So, just as an example, using that art as an example, non-artists aren't going to be able to tell that the AI art doesn't look good. Their capacity to evaluate the art is diminished because they haven't developed it. And they're not evil for that, right? I don't think Shadiversity is evil for wanting AI art to be a thing. I think he's just mistaken and just doesn't realize, doesn't realize that it looks silly. And I think writers are going to be the same way. I think we'll see a lot of AI slop, Grammarly slop, like people who just do the Grammarly suggestions. I think we'll associate it with Indians. This is going to sound racist, but who cares, right? Because I think foreigners use this a lot because they're not native English speakers. So foreigners will use it a lot to try to smooth out their grammar and make it seem more like a native speaker. And we'll just immediately identify that it's not a human. We'd be like, oh, this must be an Indian marketer because it seems like Grammarly corrected all their writing. Hardwick wrote something. Speaking of courses, did you hear that the BBC made a masterclass style writing course hosted by Agatha Christie, an actress with the real Agatha Christie's face deepfaked over hers? I did not hear this. Very disturbing. I remember when they came out with a Dio hologram and decided to go on tour with that. Everyone was like, that's disgusting, dude. He's dead. Please let him rest in peace, please. Can we let Agatha Christie rest in peace, please? Yeah. When using ChatGPT to proofread, you can use prompts to adjust what it will and won't correct, so you can guide it to avoid overcorrections and such. I would want to check every single one. Like what Grammarly does, where I look at each one. I never correct all. I'm looking at each one and going, are you right or wrong? Oh, you're wrong. Ignore. Oh, you're wrong. Ignore. Oh, I did forget a comma. Correct. I'll correct that, right? Anyone with a semi-good eye for aesthetics sees that this AI content is dog doo-doo, but he just doesn't get it. I remember that my AI picture has more detail than Studio Ghibli, as if that matters. Yeah. Oh, it has more detail. It's like, but it's not, there's no communication here. Right? I have a problem. If I have a problem identifying AI, it's because modern day artists have basically become lifeless robots already and are indistinguishable from AI at this point. Yeah, the AI pros I talked to agree that it's already reached 80% of its potential. AI is about to hit a hardware ceiling. Consumer grade quantum processing will squeeze out another 20%, then it's stagnant for another 20 years. Right. Now, as an artist, I can think of lots of ways to use AI. And there's real artists that have things about how they've used AI. But the problem is they're not the ones doing this. It's people who don't have a developed artistic sense creating AI images and saying, look at my art. And it's like, first of all, you didn't do that. A computer did it. And second of all, you can't tell that looks bad. But people get fooled by it. People get fooled by it all the time. So I don't know quite where I'm going with that. People get fooled by it a lot. I guess that's it. So, yeah. How I would use AI as a tool. I need to sketch out a background quickly. AI, fill in this background with some mountains and stuff. And then I could pick which parts of those mountains I want to keep and which ones I don't. Photoshop already has this. Fill this area with mountains. Put a lake here. Put some sheep here. You can do stuff like that, and it just does it. So you can quickly fill in stuff that's not as important. Like if I was making a visual novel, I would draw the characters, but I might use AI to make the backgrounds or part of the backgrounds. Missed the small part of shadowing. Yeah, let's fix that. Sorry, let me find the right layer here. I'll just color it in like this. It's probably having trouble getting the paint bucket to work, which happens. Okay, let's go back to the waves. Yeah. Look forward to live streams 80 years from now with AI David Stewart. Brought to you by Disney. Yeah. So my thing with AI is really that I just don't see anybody. I don't see it really having improved anything. I can't think of anything AI has improved. It hasn't improved the internet. It hasn't improved searches for information. Hasn't improved art. It's cost a lot of money to produce it. It costs a lot of electricity to run these neural networks. You know? Yeah. It's deeply unpopular. What am I missing here? It's like tech bros are just slamming ahead with AI for everything without really thinking that, like, people actually don't like this. And it's actually not making anything better. So here's another thing about, like, let's say AI writing books. Let's say AI is really good at writing books. Like, you can write a book with characters and setting and plot. Great. You should read my books because I wrote them. Not because they have the tropes that you want. And people have said this. People already write like soulless AIs right now. Hollywood writers are like soulless AI writers right now. They write according to such a formula, and AI might as well write it. I think there's a lot of indie authors that are like that. They write so hard to market that... How should I put this? They write so hard to market that a robot might as well do it. And so if a robot can do it, if you could tell a robot, hey, robot, write me a Japanese-style light novel about a protagonist who gets isekai'd into another world. He meets an elf chick, and they go searching for mushrooms together. They have a hallucination trip, have sex, and produce half-elf offspring, which they use to take over an empire. And then it spits out a coherent book that does that, right? So for a consumer that just wants to consume that, they're like, I have an idea of what I want to consume. It's like the replicator making food to them. Maybe maybe that's what that's for. But real art is about something between me and you. It's not about you wanting tropes. You might want tropes. That might be how you find my art, is that it contains something that you like. But there's so many writers that they think entirely about, like, oh, I'm going to find some market segment and write what they want. And then they're afraid of AI doing that. It's like, yeah, because AI truly is going to take your job because you're doing the job of a robot, not an artist. You're not really thinking about it from an artistic level. And I don't think commercial art has to be soulless. That's not what I'm saying at all. But in fact, the opposite is that, like, the best commercial art has a deep soul to it. It's not just things that people like. It's something the artist is really passionate about and excited to produce for people. You know, your best commercial art is going to be like that. Kind of interesting for me to think about, at least. So yeah, I don't feel particularly threatened by AI writing. It makes my business harder, not because it's real competition, but because it just adds a lot of noise. You know, I wouldn't be upset if, like, well, I'm just going to have an AI write me a book. What I think is stupid is authors putting their name on AI books and pretending like they wrote. That's just dishonest. You didn't write it. Just stop it. Just stop doing stupid shit like that. No one wants to buy the AI book. And that's my big point, I guess. Is like, why sell an AI book? You don't need to buy an AI book. Why would you buy an AI book? Tell the AI to write you the book you want instead of buying an AI book. It's really stupid to buy an AI book because the AI can just write you a new book. It can write you as many bad books as you want. Okay? So just have the AI do that. And then you can enjoy that as a consumer. If the AI can write a book that you enjoy, have the AI write your books, but don't sell the books. You know? Quantum computing is decades away as well, but even if AI stagnates, I think robotics and AI will probably be incredibly useful tech. Robotics will, right? So when I see a robot that can do my dishes, I'm like, that's what we want. We want the robot to pick up the kids' toys and do the dishes so that we can play music together and go outside and throw the football. That's what we want AI to do. I don't want AI to like write books for me. I want to read what other artists are doing, you know? I hate AI music for the same reason. Whenever I hear it, I'm like, there's something off about it. It feels really soulless. And that's why, is that it's not an artist really making something for you, and the person producing it usually is not developed enough as a musician to really do a lot of valuation there. Oh, Sound Engraver, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for your great article on author artist services. So true. I see too many courses out there. Yeah. I get pressured to make courses. My wife's like, you need to make a course. She goes, is there a way you can do it ethically? So that I'm like, I think there's a way I can do it ethically, but I just don't like to contribute to that ecosystem of like making the artist the customer rather than the reader the customer, the listener the customer, the person who loves art the customer, the art aficionado. I was also thinking of the difference between commercial art and, quote, high art or like fine art. And I think that the big difference is patronage, which gives me some questions about neo-patronage and like what it's going to really mean for us in the future, right? Because fine art is not produced to sell the art directly to consumers, but it's produced on behalf of patronage. Either, you know, a direct patron who pays for that one piece of art, or more likely the patronage networks that we have now, which includes academia. So academia is a kind of patronage network. Grants, art grants, you know, the National Endowment for the Arts, those grants, those are all part of a vast patronage network that values certain things, right? And so that's what makes fine art. Not in that it makes it finer, but that's what really defines it, is that you're not really selling the art to the masses. That's commercial art. Commercial art is the art that you sell to people. And the fine art is art that is generated by artists who are in patronage networks. So for neo-patronage, we have an opportunity to make better art, better commercial art, by the fact that we aren't going to be bound by having to sell the art directly after the fact. You know, I think we may lose this fine art distinction at some point, and that might be good. In fact, it probably is good. I've never loved the fact that we called academic music art music. It's music produced through a patronage network. I think they're just trying to find something to use AI for. This is a good point. Oh, I can make images. I can write for you. Trying to find something to apply AI onto, but nobody really knows what to do with it. Yeah. The number one most useful purpose AI has served for me is writing code I would have otherwise had to invest thousands of hours learning to write, or spend thousands of dollars hiring a programmer to write. Yes. Now the question, but it's the same idea here, right? Is you may have to learn enough programming to know how to debug the code, because even if it could produce some functional code, you may encounter bugs. And so if you don't know enough to debug the code, you may end up with a problem with the code. You know what I mean? It's the same idea. But I think there's actually a lot of practical uses for AI, because we're over in the artistic space. We're thinking very much in terms of like AI art, which is an unwelcome, it's an unwelcome intrusion into the art space, is what I would call AI art. But at the same time, people have used AI to detect medical conditions on CT scans and stuff like that. And if the AI can accurately detect various medical conditions, that can make radiography much faster and more accurate. You could use AI to drive cars around, which could actually reduce the demand for the number of cars. Why? Well, instead of, it just becomes an automated Uber. Instead of having to catch the train, you catch the automated car. You catch the Johnny Cab. Thank you for taking Johnny Cab. And the Johnny Cab just takes you where you need to go. Actually, I think I liked it at the smaller scale.
CRM has the best AI features in the game.
Especially in sales.
Hands down.
So for me, email composition.
It's an R-word large language model that still writes very stilted in a computer way.
AI helps.
An hour in. Well, welcome. I'm gonna probably transition to playing a game here in a little bit. Systems are designed for maintaining existing structures. The AI systems are no different because the existing structures have never changed. It's always funny how like searches now have an AI overview, and you still have to like go into Reddit to get a real answer. You know what I mean? From like a human, you're like, can a human tell me whether this is true or not? And I guess this is like a deeper problem with AI is if it does hallucinate, like it hallucinated that list of like summer reading books. Can you trust anything it does? If the answer is no, if you can never trust it, its uses have to be a little bit limited. But it could be a filter, right? Like if it identifies a medical condition based on a scan, what's the next step? The next step is the doctor looks at it, makes a professional decision with the patient, right? See, to me, that could be very useful. But there might be some radiographer that's like, I might lose my radiology job. It's like, or we could just do more radiology for more people, or, you know what I mean? Or you could have a job that you like better. I don't know. I remember this old John Stossel thing he did years ago where people were upset that their call center got closed down and moved to India. The workers were, right? They're like, now we don't have a job. And he checked in on them like 18 months later. Every single one of them had found another job. Most of the jobs were higher paying, and they liked the jobs better than the job that they lost. And they also said things like, well, we didn't like the job that we were doing. We hated our job, and everyone hated that we had that job. So being forced to find another job actually worked out good for me because I found a job that I don't hate, and I found a job that other people don't hate me for having. You know? So yeah, I feel that way about like AI music albums. Oh, so you magically made 20 tracks in a day? Yeah. And they pop up on YouTube as like little lo-fi mixes, and sometimes they'll pop up after my crap. And I like, you know, lo-fi background music, but I automatically, if there's a collection on YouTube, I'm like, it has to be older than like 2022. It has to be older than that because otherwise you're looking at possible AI stuff. And you'll notice it about like 3 minutes in, you're like, this is really repetitive and there's no human touch to it. There's something off about this. It's missing something substantial. The meme is to change some of the stuff so the teacher doesn't realize you didn't write it. People aren't even doing that these days. Yeah, I'm a freelancer, and a lot of my recent work has been evaluating AI outputs, mostly videos, some photos. The videos in particular are improving at an exponential rate. I have seen videos getting better. And this is also like possibly a problem for our world in the future, which is like, can we trust that the video is real? We're going to approach the time when we can't trust our eyes. They make courses for how to make courses. Yeah. AI has already borne its essential fruit. Turns out that's a front-loaded 1/3 efficiency increase. I remember this being one of the issues that led to the war in the Matrix storyline. The machines in their City 01 were making hovercrafts faster than humans were, putting everyone out of a job. That kind of AI, really a pattern recognition machine, I think will actually be useful. Training it on medical imagery and then seeing it catch cancer and tumors before humans would. Simply because it sees the patterns in a way we don't. Yeah, or it's more consistent with it, or it's seen more of the images, right? You know, a doctor may have seen 1,000 images, but the AI has seen 1,000,000 images. So its ability to comprehend patterns, it just has a bigger data set than humans do, and that's amazing. So it could be really useful for that. I think there's a ton of uses for AI. I think people thinking AI is going to replace me as an artist are missing the point of art. And I think that if consumers really just do want their light novel tropes and don't care about this idea of artistic intent, then they can have an AI write them a book. And no big deal. That does put certain authors out of work, but not me, because I don't operate on that level. I operate differently. Then other kinds of pattern recognition. This is a great one. Weather, for example, always very difficult to predict, but maybe an AI sees patterns we don't. Speaking of AI's hallucination, a programmer buddy of mine said that it's really just how all the AI LLMs work. Yeah. To the AI, hallucination is no different than a non-hallucinated book. It just writes something based on statistical likelihood. That's how LLMs work. What's the most statistically likely word after X? Then it inserts that word, then it continues down the line. It's all hallucinated, really. Well, I know you're not an AI because you made a typo and misspelled hallucinating. See, I'm reading the chat and I'm not doing this map, which needs to get done. I would love to get it done this week, and I may do like a bunch of extra streams because I really want to get this map out with the other digital products this week for King Leper. Maybe no one on this planet will appreciate this gigantic map, but I have set myself to doing it, so I've got to do it. And I got to come up with some extra place names too, which is going to be a challenge. I was like, man, I should like let people suggest some names for some places. And I can always revise this. I can always add more stuff as I go. You know what I mean? I don't have to keep it really exact. Like if I write, so I have a book that's going to take place over in this eastern part of the continent. And, I just can add more place names that I didn't put in the first time if I want to. Not a big deal. Yeah, if structures are corrupt, then the systems won't change it. Just maintain it. There you go. Dude, Google's paying you $20 an hour. I need $20 an hour. You see a new album once a month. That's a red flag. I discourage YouTube from recommending those, yeah. That band put out 30 albums in 1 year. They're on a roll. We laugh, but Buckethead could do that. Buckethead could actually put out, an album every month. And the way he would do it was, it's mostly improvisational music. So when you're doing a lot of improvisational music, it's a little bit easier to put out a bunch of albums. Right? Like I could put out 10 albums a year of this stuff that you're hearing. And there's a guy who puts out an album every day of ambient music, a Japanese guy. He's been doing it for years. It's not AI. He makes it all live, but it's it's a little easier to do something like this live than it is to do like a really fully developed, fully produced album of some kind of popular music, I feel like I need to zoom in. It's not like the right amount. How far zoomed in am I? I don't know. 25%. I think I was zoomed out to 10%. This feels not tight enough, so I'm going to redo that. turning this screen so I can draw a little easier. Weird. Yeah, AI music, there's always like something a little off with it. It sounds like flat, it doesn't sound right. There's like there's some reality that's missing from it. I feel that way about a lot of electronic music too, so take that with a grain of salt. A lot of times I hear electronic music and it's so quantized. It's so funny now, like I see guys producing music and they're like purposefully dequantizing all the music to try to make it sound more human. They're like, no, we got to get this groove. They call it a groove, which wasn't what we meant about a groove 30 years ago, but they mean it as like it's slightly out of time. It's not quite like a quarter note. I'm like, that's not how we thought of groove 30 years ago. But it's weird how that became what groove is. Yeah. When it comes to Eternal Dream and such, where would I start reading? I might have asked this before. Would you recommend starting at the beginning or just diving in? So you can read in chronological order. First one is Bright Children, which you can only get on Patreon. Probably the best first book to start in would be Water of Awakening. Water of Awakening is the first book of the mainline series. You'll get to see most of the important stuff in that exposed. You get to meet Helga, who's an important character, and you get a great adventure. And I had a lot of fun writing that book, so you get to feel how much fun I had writing a book. So that's a great place to start. Really, because there's multiple series, there's no wrong place to start. You can start almost with any book. The only real exception is the Moonsong books are definitely meant to be read in order. They are one continuous story taking place over 3 books, and I'm going to add 3 more to it. They're much more like serial, so... yeah, there's no wrong place to start. But the Water of Awakening is a really good place to start for that reason. Very good place to start. Okay, let's see what that looks like so far. Zoom back out to about... See, this is not 100%. We're not zooming past 100. We haven't... For me to zoom into 100%, I'll show you what 100% looks like. To show you how big this freaking thing is. I was doing this forest. Let's get down to 100%. There's 100%. Moonsong, that's the one I had in mind too. Part of the Eternal Dream, but they're in their own thing. Yes. Takes place in a much later time. All right, let's look at our coasts. Did we miss any coasts in here? I'm seeing a lot of coasts that are filled in with 2 lines. I could do a 3rd line. To like really show where the coast is. But I think you could see it even at like the fully backed out version. Like it becomes kind of clear where the coastlines are. Draw some more features. Let me turn on a few more of the layers here. Here's our region text. Right. Let's see what's going on here. Yep, it's a big map. Thought the Kickstarter would encourage me to actually make this thing. You can see there's still quite a few like blank spots up here in the north, right? The northern wastes are up here. These are the Feylands right here at the center of the world. This is the mountain where the Twilight Kingdom was. We haven't been to these countries yet. And we're kind of in this country with Alshafalda, but it's a different country in the later versions. Chronocyte takes place... Chronocyte takes place right here. Alright. Now, let me show you something else that's going on here. Let's all right, there's our old maps. Give me some idea where certain things are going to be. Let me turn on my... What layer is this drawn on? That's interesting. Features. Okay. Yeah, I drew part of the forest in the wrong layer. I'm not going to redo it. Mountains? Coast? What the heck what the heck is this drawn on? What layer? Okay, features, mountains, waves. Oh, okay. I have all this blue drawn on the wrong layer, so I'm gonna erase some stuff real quick here. So, yeah, this should be in the sketch layer here. So. So what I was doing here with this sketch layer was I was just marking out like the regions that I need to draw like forests in. Like right here.
At Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks,
and then I just kind of fill them in.
Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a
But I use blue ink for all the sketch layer stuff, so it becomes really easy to see. Oh yeah, I got to redo those waves and for that lake there. Okay. Anything that's blue, get rid of all the blue. Okay. And we can turn that layer back on. Features. And sketch on here. See.
You better not be using all the old spice.
Let's go back to waves. Using our 10 point. I'm gonna be using a 10 point little pin here. There's our little lake. And see, what's kind of cool, I'll show you why I like to do these on separate things. Like, let's say I want all my rivers to be a little bit thicker. I can do something here where I could put a stroke around it. Let me show it to you so you can see it on here. Right? I'm not going to make it brown, but I can make it black here. Okay? And everything's super thick. Just come back, you could shrink it down to like 1 pixel, and then it just kind of will fatten everything up. Adds a pixel onto everything. See? So if we want to, like, we can kind of thicken things up, add a little pixel, add 1 pixel onto everything, which will make all the rivers a little bit thicker and the coasts a bit thicker. You can also do like, you know, you could make it even darker or bigger if you want to. So it just gives you some options. Now I made a mistake here where I put all of this in the wrong layer. It's possible for me to pull it out of that layer, but I'm not going to do that right now. Like I could pull it out and basically move it to another layer, but it's just a little bit annoying. So anyway, I'll show you that's why I do these in different things. So I can like thicken the lines if I want to. Do you keep climate in mind? Yes, I do. I just kind of go with feeling. I'm thinking the hotter further south, more rainforest, rain shadows. Exactly. Everything's a rain shadow, right? So like the Orcish drylands are in the middle of a plateau of a rain shadow. It's kind of like the American Southwest. You have the Sierra Nevadas and the Rockies, and between them is a big dry area. So you can see this is going to be a desert area. You're going to have drier. This is going to be kind of a plateau-like area, less forests. Whereas you're going to have lots of forests here, kind of up against mountains. You're going to have a dense forest here. There's forests all over the place. Obviously, big forest up here in this steppe. You know, we have this island here, which is kind of fun. This big inland sea. About 8 o'clock. I should do some gaming. But yeah, this forest was super annoying to draw, but maybe I'm going to get started on the next forest here. So what I'm going to do is turn on the old maps. And we're going to hit our sketch layer, and we're going to hit it with blue and not green. Well, let's do green. Green is actually good. I'm just going to change the color green here to something a little bit like easier to see. That. Okay. All right, so we're on our sketch layer. Yeah, we have forests that go. Let's get in a little more zoomed in here. We have forests here, and there's let's get a little thicker pen. It's my size here. Let's go to about 25, so I can see what the heck I'm doing here. Do it in green. Green. Alright, so this is the Wolfwood. And the Wolfwood, we are actually going to extend it all the way out here. Right? Maybe even kind of further out here. There's a big forest there. Okay. And where are some other forests? There's a forest here. So we're just going to do that. I'm drawing better forests than I used to draw. And where else do I have a forest? I already got that one. Oh, there you got some forests here.
Yo, what's up? I'm Travis Barker. You are at my
All right,
studio.
Travis Barker. Thanks for your commercial, my brother. And the Orangewood, we've got this big forest that goes kind of up over here. Right. I might actually have it go kind of all the way down there. And then I'm just going to put a big forest here. Actually, let's make it go all the way over there. So I'll mark out my forests here. We're also going to have a really big forest here. 2. A lot of my original maps had no forests. They're very time consuming to draw them. So it's probably good if I have a little bit fewer of them, I suppose. It's big forests, dense forests. I can decide where my other forests are going to be later. I do think some people get carried away with realism. I think that is true. And I think it's okay to be like really crazy fantasy as well, like what Michael Moorcock does, where like he is, you know, his fantasy, like, here's a sea that's boiling. There's a boiling sea. Okay, cool. You know, I could do like a color layer on this too, if I get bored. Let me look down here to get the right scale here. That's another challenge, is like I want the, you want the trees to have the correct scale. So like they're not too big, not too small. But like this is very labor intensive to do this. So you can see how labor intensive it is to do. But it's okay, I love it. And maybe I'll just do a map the whole time. Yeah, actually, here's an easy thing I can do. If I want to get the scale, I'm just thinking of this. We need to go to the features. We're going to grab, what's a good thing that shows the scale? We're going to grab this. We're going to copy it. And escape. Let's do the lasso tool, my bad. We're just going to, oops. I want a marquee tool. I want I just want to select it. Oh, you know what? That's in a different region. It's in the wrong layer. Let's we'll grab this one. Just can't select it for some reason. I can do this. It's still not selecting it. Lasso tool. What do I have selected wrong here? Features. What the heck is going on here? There we go. I think I had something else selected, and that's why. So you just go up here and paste it. Then I can get in a little bit more here. Move it over here. This will give me an idea. This is how big it should be when we draw these things. I'll show you how I do the little trees. Happy little trees. I might add 50%. Probably want to be at 33. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Make sure I'm in the right layer, which is features. And yeah, we just start drawing our happy trees. Just trying to make them about the same size here. So it's a little more room there. There we go. Approximately the same size. Then you can just start kind of filling that in. See? More trees. Feel like it's, there we go. Sometimes I like to put a little, little tree up there. So you get the idea. The trees kind of go up against the mountains here. Happy little trees. There we go. So generally, you want to do these from like the bottom up. So I'll go down here. I'll start making some little trees here. I'm going to give ourselves a little bit of space between the trees and the river. That might actually be a little too close. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more space between the trees and do some big ones and some small ones. Like this. Just want a couple of this perception of these are individual little trees, And that's what we want for this little part here. And then we can start filling it in with more trunks and more little trees here, different shapes. This is like a forest. Get our perceptions here correct. HD2 is just focused on co-op. Oh, did you play multiplayer games at all? I don't really play multiplayer games too much anymore. You just focus on your limited available time on single player. Hard to find good games like classic Halo and Battlefield, but I'm enjoying Helldivers 2. I didn't play Helldivers 2. I had some friends that were playing it, but a lot of times when these things come out, I don't have time to play them. They don't come out when my schedule affords me time to play a game. And yeah, that's it. And then plus Helldivers, spent a lot of time, the devs, I should say, spent time telling everybody how much they hated me. So, hate their players. So I just said, okay, well, I don't have to play your game. There are infinity other options out there, aren't there? I don't have to play the Helldivers game when their dev team is calling me a fascist. And which basically, if someone's calling you a fascist, what they're basically saying is, I hope you die. Right? They're basically saying, you're not a human and violence should be perpetrated against you. Anytime anybody uses the fascist term in 2025, I should say. You guys know what I mean? So, but that's what they did. The devs decided they'd like to spend time talking about how much they hate me, so I don't need to buy their game. It's okay. It's a luxury item that I don't have to buy.
Before Jobber, I had these folders from Staples, pre-printed for construction projects.
For whatever reason, I do prefer fantasy that's darker and more historically grounded or medieval, for lack of a better term, as opposed to high fantasy settings. Yeah, it just depends what you want, There's a lot of that. A lot of times what I see with dark fantasy is not stuff that's grounded. What I see is stuff that's kind of prurient, I guess is the word that I would use. Prurient meaning a little overly obsessed with being mature, right? They put in sex and violence because that's how you know it's for grown-ups. And to me, that's a very prurient
24-hour moisturizing body wash with just
approach.
12
I see it with comic
ingredients.
books
Isn't it
too.
a myth?
Comic books tend to be very, very too focused on being adult, I guess is what I would say. You know what I mean? Our medium is not for children, so we're gonna make some really immature sex stuff just to show how not for children it is. I've neither read nor watched The Boys, but that's sort of how I feel about it. It's got blood, gore, and explicit references. That must mean it's for adults like me. The older I get, the less that stuff even appeals to me. It's like it is for children, just in the wrong, in the wrong direction. This probably shouldn't be for children. You know, this is like things that children are excited about. It's things that excite children. And that's not what excites me as a grown-up. Oh, some more trees here. All these kind of like little individual trees. Sometimes you just like a few others kind of hanging out here. Going into the Wolfwood here. Berserk's one of my favorite dark fantasy series, but in my opinion, nothing in it is gratuitous or for the sake of shock value. It's all in service of the story that's being told. Yeah, I loathe 1990s Vertigo comic Sandman Mystery Theater. It took Wesley Dodds' Sandman, a 1940s Golden Age character, and added in as much adult content as possible, including a back alley abortion. Yeah. Just because something is grotesque doesn't make it adult either, right? Like, just because something's gross doesn't mean it's, like, more mature. You know, the older I get, the less I'm interested in gross stuff. It's more like, what, you know, adults can handle this sort of gratuitousness. It's like, well, maybe we don't want to handle it. Yeah. You know, maybe I don't want to handle that. Maybe I'd rather handle something else. And what is the back alley? What's the point of the back alley abortion? We have to ask that sometimes, right? Which is like, maybe the back alley abortion is there for a good reason. Maybe it's there for no good reason. Maybe it's there to make some sort of point about abortion. Like, is it political? I don't get it. Right? Is it about the character, like, going against their values? Like, what is that event doing in the story? Right? Is it doing something in the story? Are the characters having an impact? Are they impacted by that? Does it matter? Right? Like, there's this part in Trainspotting, the movie, where, like, they find the baby is dead. This addict's baby has died from neglect. Right? Now, is that there just to show you a dead baby? No, it's to show you the really horrible consequences of heroin addiction. That somebody's baby has actually died. And they didn't know whose baby it was, really, until, like, I think it was Sick Boy was like, he got upset about it because it was probably his baby. But everybody is so, like, addicted to the drug that they can't really function. And not only that, but, like, after they find the baby, one of them is like, well, I'm going to go cook up a batch. Like, I'm going to go do some heroin. Right? So that's a really horrific thing, right? But it serves a purpose in the story, which is that it's showing you something really bad, because they've treated they've been treating addiction quite
soy lecithin, ion charged protein blend. That's not good.
Quite humorously up to that point, right? They'd been showing you a very humorous look at these drunks and these addicts, and then finally you get, okay, something really bad happens. So, you know, showing that, and then, like, later when Ewan McGregor's character is having these awful withdrawals and he's hallucinating, because of how much pain he's in from the heroin withdrawals. He sees the baby and it's terrifying to him because he's looking at like the consequences of what he has participated in and what he's seen and what he's done and what he's witnessed, and it's horrific, right? Without the drug, not only is it horribly painful to be without the drug, it's painful because you are seeing what you did, right? You need the drug to help you to cope with what you've actually done with the drug. That's sort of the horror of the heroin addiction that they show in this movie. And personally, I think it's done very well, right? And if you were to do like something more muted with that, it just wouldn't have that same impact. I don't know. You guys can tell me if you think that was like a bad thing to include or not. But just having a back alley abortion or something on its own, just to show you that a character is suffering, that doesn't really do anything on its own, for me at least. Like, is she having the back alley abortion? Are you making a heavy-handed political point here about how she should be able to go to an abortion clinic to like sterilize herself in a very like controlled environment, or what? Like, what's the point of that scene? Is she being forced to do it? Is it showing the villain? Is it showing how like she's relinquishing her morals somehow? Like, what's the message behind the back alley abortion? No, it's just to have it. It's like showing people doing drugs or just having sex. Okay, yeah, great. Is that to show them being bad, or it's like, no, it's just real? Okay, well, I have real at home, you know? I can just do that with my wife. Right? It's kind of funny because like the sex in Friday the 13th is not the gratuitous part. It's showing what they did in order to gain the ire and the revenge of Jason's mom. To me, it felt like the writers at Vertigo were just wanting to cram as much controversy, edgy content into the comic as possible. I could see that. Only 22 viewers. I'm starting to lose my faith in humanity. Well, maybe it's a little boring to watch a guy draw many small trees in ink. You're not alone. Vertigo was the epitome and a main vector of 90s artistic edutarianism. Edutarianism. Yep. And see, to me, there's like a difference between being edgy. Oh man, how should I put this? Yeah, sometimes people want to be edgy. But edginess is not necessarily controversial. You know, like the edge rock is about trying to gain attention by doing things that people don't want you to do, or that are considered obscene, right? Like Marilyn Manson is an edge rock act. But if you actually listen to Manson's music, it's not very interesting musically. In fact it's pretty boring. His vocal delivery, he has this really harsh vocal delivery that I personally don't like, but if it weren't for that, then the music would be really boring. It'd just be very like straight ahead punk rock without really a whole lot else to it. The lyrics aren't particularly deep or interesting. It's just there to be edgy, right? It's like putting, Typo Negative used to do this. Typo Negative had just like, would have a picture of Peter Steele's butthole as the cover of one of their albums. Why? Just to be edgy. And they thought it was funny, right? So they did it kind of as a comedic thing to be edgy. But Marilyn Manson was like, no, I'm going to try to get people to take this seriously. And you really shouldn't take his music seriously. It's not serious music. It has no deep lyrical quality to it. It doesn't have much to say. If you were to tame down the gain on the fuzzy distortion that they put on all of the guitars, and then just have the songs just sung straight ahead, you'd be like, oh, this is like, it wouldn't sound too different than most like 80s punk rock stuff. You have season 1 of Game of Thrones that do it just to a point where it just becomes trite and overdone. Eroticism can have a point to its characters in showing it because it's a visual medium. Movies in this case, of course. And it's really funny. You should read Game of Thrones. If you haven't read Game of Thrones, the sex is generally not particularly explicit in the actual book Game of Thrones. In the show, they like to titillate with the sex scenes, right? Because, frankly, the audience likes to be titillated. But if you read the books, there's some really graphic and gross things that characters describe to each other. Like when, who is it? One of the Lannisters is describing how, like, his father paid to get this prostitute to like fall in love with me, and then all my brothers had sex with her right in front of me, and this kind of thing. Which one was that? I think it was the dwarf. Right, it's really gross, but it's really there to show you how evil the Lannisters are. It doesn't have no purpose. And, the good characters like the Starks. Stark's wife wants to have sex with her husband to produce children. She's like, I could give him another child. So she's looking at sex from a healthy point of view. And the more evil characters do it in various perverted ways, right? They're incestuous. The Lannisters are incestuous, right? The king is, of course, a philandering drunk, right? All this stuff, I feel like Martin had a purpose with it. You just kind of get to that ending and you're like, oh, well, I'm just done with the story now. Like, I don't really need more of this story. I got the gist of what Martin was doing, and I'm ready to move on. But yeah, the Starks are, and what's funny is like, oh, well, Ned Stark has this bastard. It's not actually his, right? But that's the way that he covers it up, is he has a dishonorable part of his past in order to cover up for something else. He takes like the moral punishment for that, and all that kind of stuff. If I'm spoiling anything and you're upset about me spoiling Game of Thrones stuff, that like Jon Snow isn't Ned Stark's kid. Sorry. It's been out a while. So I figured if you wanted to read it or watch it, you would have done so. I've actually never watched the entire series. I've only watched like the first episode or two, because I find this series just very, very boring. I don't like it as I don't like long TV shows that do what Game of Thrones does. It doesn't interest me. And that's not to say anything against you. If you like it, then I'm glad you had a show which you like. And I'm glad that that was something that you got to enjoy. I really am. Take a look at what I've done here. I'm running out of time. I'm not going to play a game tonight. I'm going to just... So we have our forest here. So the Phalanx are right here. The forest really needs to go a little further south to get down here. But you can see kind of how labor intensive doing all the trees is. So I have all these forests here. So yeah, Jon Snow is not Ned Stark's bastard son. Rather, he's the bastard son of the original king, which he's kind of kept hidden from everybody. He's Daenerys's half-brother, I think. So, yeah, that's Game of Thrones. So all that stuff serves a purpose, believe it or not. So, you know, I get in my circle, it's not popular to defend George R.R. Martin, but George R.R. Martin really knows what he's doing with a lot of what he does. And rather than discounting it as purely the malaise of the current cultural thing, we can look at what maybe the purpose of that was in context, because I think Martin is a better writer than most people on my side who are wanting to do something more subversive will give him credit for. I think he's a good writer. I'm not really interested in the sequels to Game of Thrones. I'm not interested in the rest of the series because I don't care about the characters, really, because of the way he ended that series, or because of the way he ended that first book. And that's how it is. Believe me, I can commensurate with you. Working on cover text for Ethereal's 10th anniversary edition while listening to this. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you with me. I need to wrap it up in a few minutes and see what my family's doing. So, but yeah, Martin's a good writer. I think he is intentional with most of what he does. You know, even the showing Daenerys like having diarrhea probably has a purposeful effect in his mind. And we can say, yes, it's gross, and maybe we shouldn't have that in books, and that's a valid discussion as well. But I think he had it to show how, like, you know, how low can she go? She's in, you know, we're going to show it that. And the sort of gritty edgyism of the Game of Thrones stuff, I think a big portion of it is derived from what begins as wanting to have an effect in the story, to show wickedness. It's just over time, the evil just starts to outweigh the good to such a degree that you don't really see a point. At least I did. I didn't see a great point in continuing to read the series. I didn't feel like there was anyone I wanted to root for. I never bothered to read Game of Thrones. The show kind of tired me of it. I watched the first episode. I kind of thought it wasn't for me. The books are okay. The books are too slow paced for my personal taste. That's my actual complaint about the books is a technical one. He does this thing where as soon as you get to a part where you may get a resolution on one of the many little conflicts that the characters have with each other, he does a chapter break and he goes away to somewhere else, to a different place, a different conflict, And so you just have this kind of soap opera bounce back and forth between all these little conflicts. And once you understand that's what he's doing, it starts to get annoying. And as a result, the book, man, the first book is pretty big. You know, it's like 200,000 words or something. It's bigger than King Leper, which is really 3 books packed into one. And there's not nearly as many plot events in Game of Thrones as there are in King Leper. But it's long, and it starts to feel long after a while because there's no forward momentum on any of the conflicts. It takes so long. You're reading for like 50 pages before anything happens. And when you're aware that he's just switching back and forth to kind of prolong all the resolutions of all the little conflicts, it gets annoying. You're like, come on, don't go to that other character. Tell me what happens. And if you're keen, you'll get to the end and realize a lot of what you saw didn't have any impact on the story at all. It was kind of flavor. It was like flavor for what Martin was doing. And that's okay. I like flavor too. I actually really do like flavor in my books. It's one of the things that makes Tolkien so good. But it was a little too much for me. That's all. Hear my cat complaining. It's also likely his ending was going to follow the same broad strokes as the last season of the show, and seeing how poorly received that was scared him. Sargon of Akkad said that George R. R. Martin can't finish Game of Thrones because there's no good guys in the story anymore, so no ending feels meaningless. So any ending feels meaningless, yes. That's possible. I mean, I would still root for Jon Snow probably, but I don't know whether he kind of changes or becomes a bad guy or like what happens with him. We have about 9 more minutes. Might come back later and play a game. See, once you get these first couple rows down, then it's like more like drawing these random, treetops, one over the other. And then, I might put like a little gap right here, right? So you draw a little tree here. You put like a little gap, right? Let's do a little gap here. Draw a little tree here. A little tree there. One more little tree up here. Kind of show it being kind of in a little gap up there. Gives it a little more dimension here. So this is a rain shadow up here. Cool. So you could just put in like a little gap here.
At Spectrum, we believe every day
Boy, way to ruin that.
possibilities. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience.
I would not say that shot content is all of what Game of Thrones is. I know right now, as far as like our, I don't know what to call it, like our current zeitgeist in my kind of little corner of the internet, yeah, it's very popular to kind of dog on George R.R. Martin and say like he sucks and no substance, but I think there's a lot there. I think probably as time went on with the books, the deeper stuff that he really had in that first book starts to get lost, and it becomes more about like just the plot, the soap opera plot continuing onward. But there's a lot of subtlety, I think, in that first book there about different kinds of personalities and the sort of the negativity, the negative things that they cause in different ways. You know, there's definitely a protagonist in Ned Stark. There's definitely an antagonist in Cersei Lannister, and Jaime Lannister as well. And so when I point that out, then it's like, well, what about Jon Snow? It's like, well, he's on the wall. Right? You have all these extra characters that they're kind of on their own little journeys, but they aren't doing a whole lot to deal with the conflict of the king's son is actually an incestuous bastard, and they're trying to put Lannister on the throne. Right? That's the Game of Thrones. You know? Yeah, what are some examples of books you'd like? It was like soap opera, but with violence and profanity and inbreeding. So it's just like soap opera. Yeah. It is. It's medieval soap opera, and I think more people should appropriately view it as such. I think that's why it was popular. It was soap opera. It took the soap opera formula and did fantasy with it, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that. They got hooked, so to speak, on the conflict of the Lannisters and the Starks and what's Daenerys' last name? You know. But like the incest is part of the evilness of them. It's kind of a kick the dog thing at the beginning of the book. Right? Not only are they like evil, right? They're really evil. They're messed up. You know, Ned Stark has a healthy marriage. That's why he's a good guy. It's like he has his wife. He married her honorably, even though his brother was supposed to marry her. You know, the sexual relationship is to produce children, which is appropriate and normal. And it's not, you know, to merely for perverse pleasure. You notice, like, in the first book at least, there's all of these weird perversions that are the result of people being, like, less than good, like unvirtuous. There's even one where, like, you have this kind of older boy, like, suckling on his mom's boob. And you're like, well, what's the point of that? It's to show how she is messed up, right? It's to show how she is doing something other than what is good and appropriate and what the consequences of that are. You know, but over time, I think what probably happened is we lost sight of who exactly are the good guys and why are they doing this and what about them makes them good. You know, I think with Ned Stark, you have a protagonist who is actually good and cares about the honor of his friends and the outcomes of the kingdom and his family as well. He's a very virtuous person. So when he's like betrayed at the end, I mean, on a certain level, his betrayal comes from the fact that he was willing to compromise with evil, if I remember correctly. Targaryen. Yeah, that episode, the loony with the older son. I never watched it. I'm only remembering the book. So that's just stuff that's in the book. I remember George Martin described her nipple as like this red nipple. It's really funny to me. Whenever authors describe the female anatomy, to me it's very easy for it to be laughable. There's a part where Gene Wolfe describes the female anatomy as like a newly hatched chick, and it's just... What are you saying, dude? Why would you say that? And then I point out how weird it is to try to describe that, a vulva that way. And people are like, no, it was because Jolenta was like this altered, at that point, cybernetic woman, and it looks weird. It's like, so you wouldn't put your wiener in something that looked weird. Imagine you're like, I got this hot girl and I'm gonna bang her on this boat. And it's like, but it looks weird downstairs. Are you going to continue? If it looks weird, you're not. It's ending right there. So I don't think he intended for it to look weird. I think he just, for whatever reason, he thought Severian would describe it that way, and it was just really funny. It was very funny. All right. It's 9 o'clock. I need to hang it up. So let's get this out of the way. Let's take a quick look at it. All right, we did all the coast, 2 lines on the coast, which I may leave it at 2 because I think it looks okay the way it is. And we did this forest. The forests are pretty intensive, so I got to do a few more forests. There's one here. I'll probably put one right here. And I'll probably put one over here, and then I'll have to put a couple down south over here. And those are definitely the most labor-intensive thing that I've done here. What about Frank Herbert inventing the word beef swelling? I don't remember the word beef swelling. I don't remember it, I'm sorry. But it's good. I'm reminded of Mr. Garrison from South Park's romance novel. It was a firm yet strong penis. I had to step away a second. It sounded like you were talking about cybernetics in Game of Thrones. No, I was talking about Book of the New Sun. There's a part where a character is going to have sex with another character, and he describes her vulva as like a newly hatched chick, which to me is really weird, and I don't think that it looks like that. All right, that's what the map looks like. It's huge. It's really big. It's a very big map. It's a gargantuan map. Gargantuan map. With a lot of stuff in it. And a lot of stuff that I'll probably have to think up and label. I cut part of the continent off over here because I felt like it was getting too big on this side. I was like, it's sticking out too much. I want it to not stick out as much. I wanted a more narrow country over here. So anyway, let's turn on the... There's some text in here. Text looks like this. The Dobo Wall. This will be the Wolfwood. Going in here. Yeah. There's a forest here. Yeah. So we'll get all this. We'll do lots of features. Man, I really want to ship it this week, so I'm going to do my best. I'm going to focus really hard on getting this thing done because it is mammoth. But in the future, when I do a book, I can just kind of copy a section and just put that in the book. You know? So it might save labor. It might save labor over the long term. Witcher 3 turned 10 the other day. Still my favorite game. I'm not a big fan of Witcher 3, but I haven't played that much of it. You know, I streamed it a little bit, but I didn't really get deep into it. I liked Witcher 2. I'll go back and play Witcher 3 sometime. Anyway, that's it, folks. I think that's going to be it for me today. Didn't play a game. I just focused on work, but that's okay. We'll be back with games some other time, and we'll do that. So have a great one, and I will see you all next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a really good rest of your evening. Let me link Patreon. I got to link all the stuff. Patreon. And hey, we'll link Substack. Here's the newest Substack on Scott Adams. Dilbert will die. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. It's good. You can do it. Thank you. Yeah, I have all the digital files. This is the only thing I wanted to include in the digital files that I don't actually have done. Everything else I think is done. I may make a more reader-friendly version, PDF version, that's like a little bit more zoomed in. But that only takes a couple minutes. That'll be really easy. And then I can figure out how to distribute that to everyone in an easy way. So I'll figure that out this week. And so hopefully everybody will have their digital files this week. And then the physical books are ordered. So we're waiting for them to ship. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. I will see you all next time. And thanks for all your help, Brian and everybody else.